Greetings, folks. My name's Dustin Cormier, and you're watching How to Rock Astrology. Don't mind my crazy hair. COVID has been a hard time on barbers everywhere, and Tarzans like me who don't get to have barbers right now. Thanks so much for coming, folks. Today, we're going to be talking about Venus in Libra. We're going to start thinking about how would Venus in Libra present and perpetuate its own pleasure and its own sexiness and how it likes to enjoy itself. Well, we're going to read it from 3 different books. The first one comes from Astrology, A Cosmic Science by Isabel M. Hickey. This is a little bit more of a sort of esoteric depiction of Venus in Libra. Less romantic and more of this spiritual thing of what this Venus is really trying to do for this person. In the sign of Libra, Venus is in its own home and at her best. Released from the earthly bondage she knows in Taurus, and because of the airy intellectual quality of Libra, an air sign, Venus is more refined, aesthetic, and artistic, which means that Libra and Venus displays a sense of art, a sense of refined practice, a sense of attunement to the sensuality of themselves and other people, in atmosphere, and these things. Refined, aesthetic, and artistic. Venus in Libra likes to express on the mental and spiritual levels rather than the physical plane. Although, this just basically goes to say that the physical plane isn't its first instinctive choice in getting the pleasure that Venus wants. Doesn't mean that they won't have sex or that they can't have sex, but really all physical things are just another way or an excuse for them to feel valued and enjoyed for their sensitive, mental, and romantic and erotic refinement. So really, when Venus in Libra is making love, they're not looking to necessarily pound the other person so hard and give quantity of energy. Venus in Libra wants to actually give quality of energy. They want to actually rev up a deep, biting enjoyment with hardly lifting a finger. There's a grace that they apply, that there's an easiness and a willingness to be soft and to listen, that they want to be respected and admired for. Venus in Libra has direct and clear emotions, and they just spell it out. This is what I'm feeling right now. This made me feel this way, just so that you know. They don't hide anything, typically, Venus in Libra. And they like to be revered and respected for not necessarily hiding anything, but also not saying inappropriate things. They want to be revered in a moment where they could have been critical, but instead they held their tongue, and then later on demonstrated the important lesson in an indirect way so that the person's feelings aren't hurt. Libra and Venus likes to be respected for that. They are the young at heart, as Isabel Hickey tells us. Easily hurt, but they don't hold a grudge unless Venus is afflicted. So Venus in this place will be easily hurt, but that's because they have such a sensitivity to all the things Venus represents. Venus in Libra gives a keen sense of color. They make a good hostess, for Venus in Libra relates to others easily. Definitely the sense of color I could see being an important thing. And color becomes a natural, inherent part. Again, when a Venus in Libra person wants to go out, they want to cater their look to the vibe that they're feeling in the moment, and possibly also connect it to the vibe of the situation that they're going to. And they want to use color to emphasize it. And they want to be respected and admired for the sense of color and what their intelligence of color brings to the enjoyment of everyone and their partner around them. There is sincerity and yet impersonality with Venus in Libra. They cannot function in a discordant atmosphere without the health being affected. It's very interesting because Venus in Libra is actually, it's a good place for Venus, but as we're going to talk about in the coming series, Venus in Libra is still very close to Virgo. Remember, debilitation and exaltation work by proximity, not necessarily just by sign. So you're not out of the woods just because Venus is in Libra, but by dignity, Venus here is in its own sign. So it makes sense that it would have... Venus is doing the Venus thing in Venus's own lane. But just like how Mars and Aries can be a bit too much, still strong, but ultimately heavy, it's bound to be the same way with Venus in Libra, where there's still there's an ideal that Venus in Libra has. And they are, because it's so close to Virgo, there's a mental idea of the type of love that they want to have. Now, they're very forgiving because Venus in Libra is, they want to be admired and revered for their ability to hold an affection despite things going wrong. It's the love that they seek. In fact, even when things are going very wrong, if the love is still there, all those things going wrong can just make Venus and Libra feel like, look at that. The connection stayed, even though all this and this and this and this happened. Venus and Libra also can be a little bit of like a doormat. They want to be revered. Venus and Libra wants to be revered for Venus being Venus, which ultimately it's a good place for Venus. It has a lot of strength because it's in its own sign. Venus in Libra listens, and it listens to itself as well. And it hears very deeply when another person is not being pleased or when they are not being pleased and when it doesn't work. So Venus will look very deeply for somebody who essentially works for them. They almost have an instinctive astrological instinct, an X-ray vision of sorts, because they just feel whether what they are works with the other person at an aesthetic, intuitive level. You can just tell when a circle is not going to go in the square hole, no matter how many apparent superficial qualities of connection are on the surface. Venus and Libra has an ideal of the perfect person that they kind of want to roll with. So it being close to Virgo and this ideal means that they have to kind of search for a long time and go through a lot of things before they fully feel like they've found somebody who really works with them. Hopefully, if this Venus is not obstructing the moon, or if the moon is not obstructed, then this Venus will not send them to an ideal partner that they will get a lot of enjoyment from, but who actually does not practically represent what that person needs. Venus in Libra can have a tendency, because it desires an image in its head and to manifest it right away, or to be as close to it as possible, that it might look over red flags or, real practical things that could actually obstruct the relationship. Ultimately, though, it's a pretty healthy place. Venus in Libra likes to find in itself this sensitivity. So it will probably be someone interested in sex, interested in romance and relationships and psychology and all the things associated with it. But really, sex and even the psychology of understanding relationships and romance and being sexy at a party, knowing what others think are sexy, all of these things that Venus understands at a basic level will always be put to finding an ideal type of person for them and to feel like they are at that connection with the other person. So, let's go over a few more interpretive guidelines for Venus in Libra. Essentially, we know that the sign position of Venus shows how one expresses affection, feels appreciated, and gives of themselves. How they express affection and how they seek to pleasure themselves, really, right? So, Venus in Libra expresses affection lightly, considerately, charmingly, and harmoniously. They're looking for their affection to be light and to be thinking about the other person, considerate. They like it to be charming and harmonious, where it's light, it's lovely, it's so sweet. Oh, that's a great idea. You know, maybe we could do this and do this. Wouldn't that be nice? You know, it's got like a charm and a delightfulness. Because again, Venus in Libra is Venus looking to enjoy enjoyment. This is just part of the funny thing. Again, I always keep reminding you that it's still close enough to Virgo that it almost enjoys the enjoyment so much that when it doesn't get the enjoyment, it can think that things have gone wrong. Oh, maybe this isn't the right lover for me, when really it was just a bad moment. Although Venus in Libra wants the love so bad that they will test it for a long time before they say, okay, this isn't working out. But ultimately, they can be too much of this wanting the image of the love and not just accepting the love for what it is that's right in front of them. Or they can be too exaggerated in their mind about the type of love that they want. There's a give and take with others with Venus in Libra that is colored by balance, fairness, and gentleness. So you can bet that a Venus in Libra person will have the positive attribute of being nice when something needs to be worked out, when there's something difficult happening. They will be balanced and charming and seek equilibrium. Venus in Libra's emotionally colored tastes are affected by a need to harmonize polarities and to appreciate symmetry and traditional beauty. So they get an emotional, sentimental satisfaction when they harmonize polarities, meaning when this person is this way and I am the perfect complement to that person's way. So Venus in Libra will be looking for things like, no matter what the sun signs are, no matter what the moon signs are, the Venus person will just see the behavior coming out, and they will love to be a complement to whatever the other person is. Regardless of the other person's signs, let's say, if they work midnight shifts, Venus in Libra is the type of person who wants to love someone enough to prove to them, I'm going to make this work, where you can go to bed and you can go to work at 12 at night, come home at 8 in the morning, and if you want to stay up with me in the morning, I'll stay up with you until you got to go to bed at 12, and you can sleep for 8 hours, and when you wake up at 9 p.m., I'm going to compensate, and I'm going to make you dinner before you go to work. That's an extreme example, and it might not always work that way, but the ability to compensate for the other person makes them feel overjoyed in themselves. And as well, if the other person extends that back to them, then the Venus will say, oh good, I tried something and the other person gave it back to me. So somebody who is watching all the things that Venus in Libra does without asking, and then mentioning it. You know, honey, I noticed that you had my shoes at the front door before I went to work today, and that was lovely. You didn't have to do that, but that was lovely. And Venus in Libra will go, oh, you noticed? You noticed me do that little thing? And it can be very sweet. They want to appreciate symmetry and traditional beauty. Emotional symmetry, as well as sharing a house and all these things in a way that vibes mutually. These are the things that Venus in Libra enjoys as well. Venus in Libra has a deep need for peace, tranquility, and harmony in order to feel comfort and pleasure. But this could lead to avoidance of unpleasant emotional interchanges and thus limit the scope of intimacy. This is coming from Stephen Arroyo's Chart Interpretation Handbook. He's particularly saying this because Venus is still naturally close to its debilitation point in Virgo by being in Libra. There's a deep need for peace, tranquility, and harmony because Venus being in Libra wants everything to be peaceful. And so there can be a tendency to just say, oh, honey, it's okay, and to just become a doormat, become a little bit of a doormat, and to avoid unpleasant emotional interchanges, which could ultimately limit the scope of your intimacy. meaning realness, meaning actual bonded connection with everything that the person is, not just the parts that your Venus wanted to seek gentle comfort in. It's not enough to seek gentle comfort with Venus of any position. And if you have a strong enough Venus, you will still want the peace and tranquility and harmony in order to feel comfort and pleasure, and it will make you at your best. But you will push for that, and you will do what you have to do in order to help make that a reality. But when it doesn't happen, you won't get too snappy. Ideally, if you've got a good Mercury, then you can communicate and move through the damage that this does to the 12th house of this Venus. The 12th house from Libra is Virgo. And if you have a good Mercury, then you'll be able to softly, directly communicate in the moment when you need to communicate it, even though you're feeling this emotional unpleasantness. Don't react to emotional unpleasantness by becoming a doormat in this position, because you can, and this will limit the scope of your intimacy, which partly means that the other partner won't respect it because you are so good at being of service to the other person in the ways that they anticipate. Libra wants to be respected for giving a clear picture of how the other person's reality can be made better. And if you can't communicate how the other person's reality can be made better, then you're not going to be revered and respected for being the complement that Venus in Libra wants to be. If emotional things are going to cause you not to speak your truth, then you're not going to be able to speak your truth, and you are not going to be in that revered place of being a useful mirror image of complement to your partner. Because, of course, you need to be a complement to yourself first. And if the other person's emotional realities are making you sick and want to throw up, again, part of you wants to be able to do that and to dust it under the carpet. That's part of your skill. But don't let that strength become your only way to bond with the other person, because you will both unconsciously invoke the gross aspect of Venus in Libra, which is avoiding unpleasant realities and not calmly, magically swooping them into the seamless background, but still keeping them real. You know, that's the magic of Venus in Libra, is that unpleasant things become less unpleasant by your service, but are still dealt with unless Venus is afflicted. If Venus is afflicted, or if the moon is not in the right place, then you will become a doormat, and you should watch out for this. Venus in Libra needs to develop relationships based on equal sharing and cooperation in order to fully give of your emotions, which means that as Venus in Libra, you're going to seek to be the servile person who wants to completely surrender everything that you are to the other person. And what's going to happen is that that's how you check instinctively, this is what it is, it's how you check whether the other person is going to reflect it back at you. So, you know, Venus and Libra people can actually be very out there with what they want, with what they seek, and they give it very plainly so that everybody can see, like, you know, if you wanted to get me a gift on Christmas, these are the kind of gifts I like, and these are the kind of gifts I like, and this would be a great idea for you to get me a gift. And they might almost seem like, okay, wow, you're really hammering me with, like, wanting a gift. But the Venus in Libra, it's not that they want the gift. It's that they want to enjoy the pleasure of having told you what they want and then having you get it. And then they go, oh, you did it for me? Ooh, now I get to do it for you. And Venus in Libra goes always way over the top. This is just the nature of Venus in Libra. I've got a girlfriend who's Venus in Libra. She always gets me the most magical, wonderful things as a gift. And she never asks really for anything in return in particular. But if I didn't respond reflectively by putting in at least almost the same amount of work that she does, it's not fun for her, and she will not give those big gifts. She's not doing them to really secure the partner. Venus in Libra does it because she the matching of symmetries of giving is something that she deeply wants to enjoy from her end. This is just how you please somebody with Venus in Libra. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm Dustin Cormier for Howtorockastrology. This has been Venus in Libra. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys stay tuned. In the next coming weeks, you're going to be seeing Venus in Libra in combination with the 12 moon signs. Check it out if you're interested. I'm Dustin Cormier. This is Howtorockastrology. See you guys on the flip side.